All right, so we are up to day 104, and the quote for today says, "Often when you think you're at the end of something, you're at the beginning of something else." And then it says, "What ended in your life that gave birth to the start of something new? Describe how you felt during this transition." So if you're following along, just pause and take a minute to think about what you might respond to this question, and I will tell you what I put. So yeah, nothing comes to the top of my head right now, but let's see what I wrote a while back. What ended in your life that gave birth to the start of something new? Okay, so I said breakups, graduations, and deaths are the primary endings that come to mind. I said each of those have led to something new and an onslaught of feelings and emotions. With breakups, the feelings have generally been positive, which sounds weird, but yeah, for me, typically, let's see. So I says they've generally been positive, like there's a sense of relief and feelings of freedom and independence. So yeah, I don't do good with relationships because I do think I just don't like to be tied down. And that's probably why I don't think I'll ever get married at this point. Like when I was younger, I was never, I think I've mentioned this before, I was never one of those girls that like I know like some people just are the type that want to get married and have a family, but I've never been that one that would just like daydream about my wedding or like plan my wedding. I just kind of assumed it would happen. And like for a while I was always like, well, I don't want to have like a big wedding. I would rather just like, go to the courthouse and sign the papers or whatever and maybe have a reception. But now I don't really have a lot of friends or family that I'm in contact with. So like to me, there would be no point, number one, in having a wedding. And now I'm thinking, what's the point in even getting married? Like, I know there's like, what, tax benefits? And then like, I guess if you have a partner and you get sick, like what are the benefits of getting married? Like, I don't know, maybe if you can think of some benefits, like let me know of some that I'm not thinking of, but I just don't really see a benefit. And I think I saw like some things happen with my parents of like there was a time that my mom wanted to get a divorce and my dad just made it so hard for her that she just gave up. And there's been a couple of times that she tried to divorce him and she just gave up because he just made it so hard. And I just like, she never said it explicitly, and like when it was happening I was kind of young, and so I don't know, I just kind of always felt like my mom was kind of trapped in her marriage, and I never wanted to be like that. I didn't want to get trapped in a marriage. I didn't want to get trapped in a job because I felt like she was a little bit trapped in her job too. And so I think that maybe why I am so big on like going as far in my education, just so I will have that. I'll have options and I'll have opportunities. And also why I've never felt like completely like settled in most of my relationships, because some of my relationships were bad relationships, like the person was not a good person to be in a relationship with, but some of them they were fine. Like there was nothing like really wrong with the person. I just didn't feel like I wanted to spend forever with them, and I didn't, and then I felt kind of trapped because I didn't have a good reason to break up with them. Like they weren't abusive and they weren't, really bad per se, but just I didn't feel like it was like the long-term thing for me. And so normally when the breakups would happen, even if it was with the bad person or with like the good person, I was just I loved having like my freedom and being able to do what I wanted, and not have to answer to anybody, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of where that's coming from, I think. And then I went on to say, even though graduations are supposed to be happy times, I don't think they've ever brought me much joy. I said, I remember trying to feel happy just because everyone else was, but I think I always had a feeling of, okay, that's done. What will I do now? Like, it was just completion. And I don't know if I should read what's next or say what I'm thinking. I'll just say what I'm thinking. So I've had this come up also recently with, I've had some papers published in like academic journals, and I haven't been first author on any yet, but I've been second author on a couple of papers, and like we just got one, it got accepted, you know, it just got published, and everyone was like congratulating me and things like that. And I don't know. I know it's an accomplishment, but I'm just like relieved that it's done. Like, I didn't really care about getting it published. I know that sounds bad, and maybe that sounds like I should be more grateful, but I don't know. A lot of people get papers published, and so I just don't really feel like that's like, I don't know. But yeah, like I felt like people thought that I wasn't like as excited as I should have been about having these papers published. But anyway, so I go on to say, I don't think I've ever really had a solid plan for what to do after graduating. That's true. Like, I'll get into these programs and I'll just be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then when it's done, I'm like, okay, well, what's next? I don't really have a plan. My life is just kind of like one thing to the next, whatever I find. I said, all my focus was put into achieving the goal of finishing, but once it's done, I end up feeling like I'm stuck in a limbo until I figure out what to do next. It's a weird feeling. And I said, not necessarily bad, but with some level of anxiety from not having a plan or any like forward movement. So yeah, like I remember every time like I graduate, I don't really have like a long-term plan. So usually there's like a couple of weeks that I'm like, oh, thank goodness this is over. I can relax for a little bit. And then after like a couple of weeks, I'm like kind of anxious, like, okay, I got to figure out what's next. I got to do something else. Like, I'm not the type of person that can be just like idle, I guess. But yeah, I said I should probably draft a solid plan for when I finish my PhD, because I don't have that. Like, I'm working to finish my PhD, and then after that, like, I have no idea. And so I said I have some ideas. I mean, I do have some ideas. I have a lot of ideas, but nothing set in stone. And like, when I finish my PhD, like I've always just gone back on going back to school. It's like, okay, I'll finish and then I'll take a little bit of time off, and then, okay, what am I going to do next? Let me jump into another like school program. But I think after the PhD, like I've kind of reached the top. So I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I've got some business ideas, but I've mentioned before, I feel scared to like jump into starting my own business, because that's like a commitment, you know. You've got to commit to the business, and I have commitment issues. So I just worry that I would start this business and then I would get bored of whatever I was doing, and then, you know, want to move on to something else and then feel stuck in it. Maybe there's a way I could plan to like start businesses and then pass it off and start something else, you know, like maybe have someone be like a co-owner. And I don't know. I've still got like a year and a half or so to figure something out. So hopefully I get something figured out before I finish. But anyway, so that's what I had for that. Yeah, that's it. And so I will be back tomorrow with day 105.